I first met Jax in 2018 when she ran Grand to Grand. In that year, she dominated the women's race and ended up winning the event. Since then, her and I have kept in touch, seeing each other at random running events around the world. In this podcast with her, we talk about tips and tricks that she's learned over the years for running stage races and other ultra marathons. We talk a lot about how to prep yourself properly and your equipment to have a successful race, even including some creative ways to train. It's not all just about running. Hope you enjoy the show, and I'm sure you'll learn a lot from it.
I'm Jax Mustafa, and I am, I guess, retired professional ultra runner. My passion came in stage racing. So I've done 8 different stage races from, I guess, 2015 to 2019. I did MDS. I did the 4 Deserts Race Series where I was the first woman to do all 5 in one year, which I guess they call the Grand Slam Plus. And then I won all the mains for that they have in their series. And then I did Grand to Grand, which was probably actually the hardest one I did. Longer, straight up, lots of sand, and but an epic experience.
Yeah, I remember meeting you out there years ago, and you did really well in the course. And Grand to Grand is a wild experience, and it's been cool to see how stage racing has kind of become more popular over the years, especially in the United States. And
yeah,
but then also it's fun to see like how many international people come to the US to run a race like Grand to Grand.
Do you know how many do all over the world? I feel like sometimes it's more international than it is from the States. I remember the year I did, I was the first American that ever won Grand to Grand at that point. And but the international presence was huge.
Yeah, I think internationally, at least historically, stage racing has been more of a thing France and in Africa and stuff for whatever reason. I'm not really sure why, honestly, but it's become more of just a bigger thing over there. And then over the years, it started to become more popular here. And I think as people kind of progress from, I guess ultra running is still relatively new in a lot of ways compared to marathon running, to these 200s have gotten popular. The next thing is stage racing is another type of running, because there's just so many types of running and ways to explore. And I think stage races too are a little more adventurous feeling than say just a point to point 100 mile or 200. They're not easy by any means, but it's they're just a different way to challenge yourself.
Yeah. I feel like they're totally 2 different sports, honestly. I know you're doing the same thing, but I do feel like it's its own specialty. So when you get burnt out of single days, just start doing stage races.
No, I would agree. It's there are so many similarities, and with running and biking and everything, it's there are they're the same, but they're different. And it doesn't really make sense, I don't think, if you haven't been out to these events, because it's like running track and field, even versus a marathon. They're completely different sports. And people that love track and field may not ever want to run a marathon. Maybe some people that run 50Ks don't ever want to run a 200. It's they're just completely different events when it comes to your training, logistics, and everything. There's just racing patterns and styles, and everything's are so different.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So how did you get into stage racing? Because you kind of went all in and did a ton of stage races and did quite a few in one year, if I remember right?
Yes. So I was on Road Racer. And then I moved to Hood River, Oregon, and my inspiration to didn't have running groups anymore was to just check out the trails. And so I did a 50K, got second in it, and I was like, oh, maybe I'm built for this. And so then I did a 50 miler, then I did a 100 miler. And at the time I was like, oh, everyone's doing UTMB. I want to collect points to try to do UTMB. And I had to drop out of, I think it was Waldo 100K. And so I saw this stage race in Chile, and I was like, oh, that's a cool concept. You just run over multiple days, 150 miles. That sounds like luxury, after these ultra long races. And I think it was an 8 race. And I'm like, I'm going to do it. This is going to be sweet. I could do it in Chile. And so I signed up for it. And then my friend Julie was like, do you have any idea what you just signed up for? These are really hard. You need to start putting weight on your back. And I'm like, what do you mean? And so I entered my first race, I think was Atacama Crossing in Chile. my pack was 30 pounds. I had like 6,000 calories or something per day. And I ran like that for the whole first day with my pack, like just like flopping all over the place. And I was like, I did not know what I was doing. So I am here to help people not do what I did. And that night, I just started dumping food, and like people were giving me advice. And I was just like throwing away like a bunch of stuff to like get through the rest of the race. And I ended up getting second in it. And stage racing is funny. Like it's such a euphoric experience when you finish, but you're also like, never again. Like my body is wrecked. I'm starved. I just lost probably 12 pounds over the past week, and you're famished. And I think it's probably like 2 or 3 days later, like due to like the tent camaraderie and like the whole like event structure, all of a sudden you're like, oh my gosh, I'm totally in. And so I ended up, I wanted to like utilize, I've always wanted to inspire the masses to get outside and be their best self through sport. And if I did like super crazy stuff, I thought it would inspire other people to just go outside and try running. And so the next year I was like trying to figure out what could I do that would be really epic with stage races. And so I started brainstorming with the Fort Deserts crew. And I decided that I was going to try to be the first woman to do the Grand Slam Plus, which is 5 races in 1 year. And so I was like, all right, let's do it. And so I ended up doing that. And then I, won all the 4 major ones and became the, I guess, female world champion in their series, whatever that really stands for. And then I wanted to do like the big MDS race in Sochi, Morocco. I did that. And then I had this new goal of trying to win a stage race in every continent. And I had, I think, Europe and Australia left at that point, and USA. And so then I found Grand Grand. And Grand Grand actually ended up being my last one. And this was in 2019, I forgot now, 2018. And ended up winning by, I think, 4.5 hours. And first American at that point, 2:01 win. And it was really a big experience. So I just got obsessed with like the whole scene and the people and the bonding. I mean, I'm still friends with a lot of the people I've met out there over the years, which is really fun. And I mean, it becomes I feel like trail racing compared to road racing. Yeah, it's a little bit more just like a family of runners that just like love hanging out. And so I feel like a lot of us just started popping to these different races together. And I think that's really fun.
Yeah, it's fun to see the different communities that there are, like just in running in general. Like you have like your marathon friends, and you have like maybe your 50K or whatever buddies, and then even like hundreds have their own like crowd, 200s. Track ultras have their own crowd of people, and stage racing is like, it's so unique, and you have your own distinct group of people, and you see those people like all over the place. And it's cool to run into people like, oh, I haven't seen you for 5 years, and suddenly here we are in some random country running together. Like it's kind of fun, huh?
Yeah, or like you almost like scheme for it, right? Like, so I think Grand to Grand, I believe my friend Filippo, like we decided to do it together. And like, then it was like you already had a best friend in your tent. And like that made, just the like grueling days and being sore and suffering was like at night even better. And so I feel like we started to do that too. Like my friend Ludi and I ended up doing MDS together. So I think that's a really fun part of it is, it creates this community where you start like race hopping together.
Definitely. I think like in the end, like we're always looking for a community, and whether that's like where we live exactly, or just like random people, or not random people, I guess people we have met like all over the world, you make an effort to see them. Like it just becomes fun. And then you just have these friends you just do things with all over the world. And you like have these kind of shared suffering experiences that like, yeah, it is hard and brutal, but it also like that's how you bond and grow with these people, and you become really close and tight knit with them. You can almost share like, I don't want to sound dramatic, but like war stories with people.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think you're going through this very vulnerable experience together, and you're showing parts of yourself that you might even not really sure your best friend. And so like to your point of bonding, like I think it's like your tent mates, that becomes like 8 people or that just like you like show your whole self to, like the worst and the best. And, I think that's hard for a human to do on a regular basis.
Yeah, definitely. We definitely live like in a very like catered, easy world where we can just have Uber Eats. You can have food at your house in 30 minutes or something. Like, it may be kind of like disheveled looking, but you can have food to your house pretty instantly. And like our lives are relatively easy, especially like in
It's
the United States. Yeah. And so like to go out and like do these things where we push ourselves into kind of this more like primal like setting where we're just out there living in the moment and like you really become like your true self, I think, out there. Like everything's kind of like washed away. Like any sort of pride, whatever, is gone because you're just living there in that moment trying to survive. And then you're also surviving with what's gonna soon to be like a bunch of new best friends, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. So let's talk a
Well,
little bit.
Brad.
Yeah. Yes, let's talk a little bit more about like I guess your experience at Grand to Grand because you've ran all these other events, like you've all these other continents, and then here you are back in your home country running in southern Utah, and which is relatively close to where you're living at the time. So like let's just talk about like Grand to Grand. Like what was that experience like for you? I know it's been a few years, but let's talk about it.
I think top of mind it's 175 miles, right? Instead of 150, which doesn't seem like much, but I think that one thing with Grand to Grand is that I felt like at least it's this gradual up, like the whole way. So like that becomes like a grind. And then I think that from what I recall, there was a lot of sand. And so I think there was, just like programming your body. It's like totally different running form. And you just have to really get used to the slog. And even though the weather might have been like 80s, 90s, like it just felt like extremely hot. And I think that's part of being in the deserts where there's no really coverage. But it was probably my favorite stage race in a lot of ways. And I think that, Tess and Colin do a really good job with their races, but it was just the terrain. I mean, I'm obsessed with, I think, this more Sonoran like desert terrain. It's just like it's so jaw dropping and gorgeous. And so it was easy when you're just completely suffering to just forget about it and like get through. And yeah, I had like overall it was just like a really like epic, fun, beautiful experience. And I mean I had some really big lows out there. I think that's part of these stage races. You always have a low, and it's how are you going to get through it and face the adversity and just skip the panic and keep going. But I think it was this race in particular, I think there's a amount of calories that you have to have in your pack on the last day. And I was always worried, like with pack checks, especially being in the top 10 overall, that, you really had to make sure like you had this allotment. So I think the like first few days, and I brought like the bare minimum, like 2,000 calories a day, and I'm 5'10". So that's like a little bit high risk. And I like underate. And so by like day 4, I was like nauseous and I was like having a hard time. I think I was a little bit of a quote drama queen at one of the aid stations. So like it was a different low than I think I had on any other races. Like it was this famished exhaustion, and then how do I figure out a way over day 4 and 5 to like reboot myself and like get back up. And I think even with Grand to Grand 2, the long day was was it earlier or something? Like you had more heavy days on the back end. I think it was like long day off, and then like another marathon or something, and then a shorter day or something. And that was, you wouldn't think that would be a big deal, but it was a lot harder because then the 50-mile day you're wearing, I think it was my longest long day. Like I ran a lot longer through the night. I think I got there at midnight or 1 a.m. or something. And you have a heavier pack because you haven't eaten off as much food. And so it was It was a really hard race. But I mean, amazing and fun and the things that human beings sign up for is savage.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think we're always looking to push ourselves, and we kind of have like this innate desire to do like hard things, and I think stage racing is like it's just like kind of the next level of that, where like if people maybe they sign up for a marathon, like oh cool, marathons are great, but maybe they get kind of bored of like running on a road
Mhm.
of 10,000 people. I don't maybe there's not 10,000. I don't know. Road marathons just seem like it's just like there's a
10 or
ton of people.
30.
There's a lot of people,
Yeah.
okay? And then like going out into a stage race is kind of this next level thing. Like, okay, I'm gonna run a marathon, put on a trail, supported or self-supported. It's like that's a lot of running. You do that over the course of a week and throw in a 50-mile day in there with sand and all these other variables. It really
Yeah.
is like this experience that's a lot different than just running for 6 hours on a road through a city somewhere.
Yeah, when I think the pack part of it, right? So like at the end of
Mhm.
the day, it's like a marathon. I mean, you can maybe carry a gel, if you don't like the ones they're serving. And so it's like you just have all this service, right? And so you can just like focus and click off the miles. And it's like it's really interesting with stage racing. I could name all 8 of them, the huge adversity that happened. And so it's like you almost like you have to know like day one when you're sitting at the north rim of the Grand Canyon, the most epic start of your life, that like something's gonna go wrong. Like whether it's your gator's gonna blow or whatever. And I think that's what is like, I guess, like stuff that like that is how you figure out who's going to finish or who's going to do well, is literally how you deal with it, because it's hard.
Yeah, considering you had so like quite a few races leading up to Grand, like on various places, different types of terrain, like how did you prepare for Grand Grand, like to be able to mitigate some of these issues? Whether that's like food or like gear or just training in general, like what sort of things did you do to, I guess, basically, yeah, like avoid having foot
Yeah.
problems or back problems or food problems or whatever?
Yeah, I would say that like if I give any advice to someone of like how to like start like ahead of the game, one thing that I would do is I had a 20-pound weight vest that was actually, they would call it a running weight vest, or little pockets in it. And then I had a 40-pound one. And I started doing one of my long runs per week in the 20-pound one. And then in the 40-pound one, probably starting, if you guys are 4 months out or something like that, maybe 3 or 4 months out, I would work at my standing desk with the 40-pound weight vest on and like, just keep it on for like 8 hours. And just like if I was gonna go make a coffee, whatever, it's just, all of a sudden then the daunting part of initiating a pack on your back, like come, day one of the race is like, oh, this thing's so light, I don't even notice it's there. Like I think it's anything you can do to like create goals like that where like how can I give myself the easiest day one, because if I can soar through that or even day two when that 50-mile day comes, it's not going to be so bad. And so I think around 3 weeks before, and this is going to sound almost like weird, but I would literally pack my entire pack. And you pretty much can do it because the food you're bringing is like has to get through 100-degree days, and so I literally would just pack it. And then that way now I have like the proper weight distribution. And then that's when I would switch on my long runs and run with that pack, like pack to the rim. And so I think that's one thing. And then on food, um, there's this whole like there's like blogs you can find, or anyone please reach out to me and I can help you out. But it's you're gonna take food you've never like had in your life, because you're going to be sitting there, whether it's food or whatever outfit. I had one race outfit and then one outfit I would change into, which was like a sports bra and shorts, but it gave me this mental race and recovery like concept, to like swap into the two. And but so from a food perspective, like you're gonna have freeze dried food. You're gonna like some people take olive oil, some people do Nutella. Like you start to become a master of like, wow, Oreos have a lot of calories in them, like or Fritos, and like you'll sit there like weighing food, And like, that's really important to do, of like how to dial in like bang for your buck, like calories per gram. But I think the thing that people don't save time for is go to eat it and like go for a run, or like, I know this sounds crazy, but start having like, I don't know, the breakfast porridge, like freeze dried, like for breakfast in the morning with your spouse or whatever, and make sure you can stomach it. And I literally every day would have the same thing because I figured out like what worked. And it was like a high calorie mac and cheese every night, and then a package of peanut butter. And then I would sacrifice weight and have my exact running food of like, those click chews or whatever. But so it's like you got to figure out what works for you. It can be easy to get overwhelmed and then you're like shopping in Canab to put food in your bag, or figuring out your pack the night before, and that's going to lead to just like a hard day one. So I think it's like beyond the like, okay, how do I take just a smear of toothpaste and like just the toothpaste top? It's like you want to make your pack as light as possible, but you need to be a successful runner all day long. And so how do you fuel your body to get through? Or no matter how light you made your pack, you're going to be like crawling up that sand dune wanting to just fall back down.
Definitely, there's a lot of good points in there that you just made. And I think with a lot of people who are running Grand to Grand, like they're very busy, like working professionals, and you don't have time to, like a professional athlete, to go run 20, 30 hours a week and go to the gym and cross train and do all these things. So like, it's almost kind of fun to find creative ways to train. Like you're saying, like wear your pack will, like if you work from home, maybe like in an office, it might look kind of absurd, but like you can just wear your pack for hours every day because that'll get your body used to like,
and standing desk, for like, I mean, I'm sitting at a standing desk right now, but like, so that's something that it's like, how can you multitask, right? Or, like we have a treadmill right here, and it's like, you can get this like plastic thing you can put on it and start doing your emails, just like put it on an incline and just walk. I think that's a big thing, is like especially if you've been like a single day ultra marathoner, you're like, oh, what's the big deal? It's just like 20 miles or 30 miles. Like, but it really stacks up, and you're dealing with sand, you're dealing with starving, like literally starving. And so your body is like trying to survive as you're not giving enough fuel. And then you're putting on it, okay, now I'm going to move my body anywhere from 18 to 50 miles today. And so you're going to be out there like probably like just budget twice as long as you think. And so, I almost like think of it in a way as like each, week, just don't think so much about miles. Think about like time on your feet. Like, even if you're sitting there on the weekend and you've got kids, let's say, so you still don't get a break, put a vest on. And like running after your kids, like for 6 hours, going to the playground, whatever, is honestly training, and it will actually make you more prepared than like, okay, I'm going to bang out like a 20-mile, like, a ragey road run that 8 minutes per mile. Like, so I think it's just like, almost like look at like, how long will this take me? I forget how long it took me, like 29 hours or something like that. Like, okay, so it's going to take me 29 hours of running, walking, hiking, whatever in a week, or maybe it's going to take me 50. And how do I just like, get used to in my day to day, like just standing up more and like walking around more. And like, it's interesting, like, even in a busy schedule, like if you think of like even video calls or conference calls, like go for a walk for the call, like with your vest on. And I think so there's like ways like that of like, just how about my goal is just time on feet and getting used to anywhere from 15 to 18 to 20 pounds on my back. Every day. And that might help you out.
Definitely. And I think like it kind of just reminds me of what you're saying, like just I guess your time on feet aspect of like, if you've ever been in like a really big like run training block and you're like, oh, I'm super fit right now. Then you go to something like for example, Disneyland with your family and you walk around for 12 hours, like by the end of the day, like your feet hurt, you're exhausted. And it's because it's a different type of movement. Like it's not
Yeah.
running for 2 hours or 3 hours, something. It's like literally just like walking, spending time on your feet. And that's going to be a lot of grand to grand for most people because you can't run like every step of the race. Cause like you were saying, there's sand, there's bushes, there's
Yeah.
everything that's going to slow you down in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, like going back to like, I mean, that was probably the longest long run I had, because a little bit of like diet slip. And it was just, I mean, it was a really hot day. And I think that part of it too is getting comfortable by yourself, like, which is actually like a weird concept, but like, how do you, I had iPods that I like would use them until the battery was dead. But I mean, you're gonna have a lot of conversations with self out there, because I mean, you're gonna be alone, like a lot, and so I think that's part of it too. Is like many hours alone in the grind. It's totally different training, really. Like if I was gonna do like a road race, it would be these speed days and like it would all be about like pace miles. And, I think this really is about how do you endure, and deal with like the adversity, and I guess the one thing I also would do is it was really hard in the year where I did 5, because I couldn't gain the weight fast enough. But I'd probably start with like extra 5 pounds on your body. It's very helpful.
Yeah, I think like being the caloric deficit for a week, you're definitely going to lose some weight no matter like how big or small you are.
Yeah, like I mean, so like there's so many tools out now, like with training and stuff like that. Like your goal with like a race like this, even more than like a single day ultra, because in this case you're starving, is how can I improve my running economy, over the next 4 months? And a running economy goes into like how efficient your body is with just like this like one metronome pace. For me, my way that I controlled it was heart rate. So I go for like the banger multi-hour watch, like so that I can have heart rate through this entire race. And that's how I just keep myself in check, because when it's hotter, your heart rate goes up or whatever. But if you can keep yourself in this almost fat burning state and like you can improve that over these next 4 months before the race, that will significantly help you like to endure better like during the race, because your body has learned to literally go and get all those fat stores and utilize them for energy, which is very helpful when you're just in the grind, like step by step.
It's definitely. And you mentioned just a few minutes ago about like issues that crop up. Like just little like things. I'm like, how do you prepare yourself mentally for those things? Because they're going to happen inevitably, whether you're running a 100 miler or a stage race like Grand to Grand. You're always going to have a certain low point, or you're going to have a gear issue. And like personally, like gear issues frustrate me, but I have to kind of go into something thinking like, okay, like this is going to happen, and I need to like just not overreact, because that overreaction is just it's gonna kill your mood. It's gonna kill the vibe of the race. But then also it just burns a lot of energy. So like, do you have any
Yeah.
strategies for like preparing mentally for when things kind of go south?
Yeah, I mean, I think that is a key to success, I think, with stage racing, and I think mentally, if you almost can, it's another bucket of training, right? So, like, maybe even just over the next like 4 months, even when you're sitting here having adversity in like your life, like, so I would do things of like a scale, okay, on a scale of 1 to 10, like 10 dying, 1 is like total panic. I remember like running across the Gobi Desert. It was 135 degrees. It was I think day 4 or 5 of this particular stage race. I was throwing up and I had no water. And so it's like, and my shoes are melting. And so like there were holes like on the bottom of my shoes building because it was so hot and my shoes just, bad shoe choice. And they were like burning out. And so it's like I could freak out, right? And panic and be like, oh my God, I'm screwed. I'm out of water. Like, and just sit down and quit, but here I am trying to chase these records. And so like, first of all, it's like, okay, well, I need to skip the panic completely. And now I just need to go like solutions, like immediately. Like, I don't know, it's a weird thing, but just tell your mind, like, I'm not allowed to panic because I literally physically don't have the energy for it. And if I do panic, I'm going to drop out, or I'm going to get cleaned up by the race crew. And so in that instance, I started taking my water bottles, the packs are so funny with these mega straws coming out. And I literally would just like pretend and like sip water. And then I had this thing that I would do where I would have a mesh handkerchief that at each aid station, I would get it wet. And I would just keep wiping my face and like anywhere where you have like it helps you with like cooling down. And I would wipe the back of my neck, my like here are my elbows and then behind my knees until it dried up. And so it was so hot that I just pretended it was still wet, like to try to get through that. The puking I just ignored. And then like, you had to ignore what was going on in like the bottom of your feet. But it's like, you just have to like, and then you almost have to just believe in yourself. Like I was literally like seeing the aid station and I wasn't there. And, it was just like everything just became like clicking off the Ks to get to this aid station. And I think I had like 2 liters of water when I got there and, then had to make it like 5K to the finish. But I think it's all about like, I think that is the hardest part of a stage race is like mentally you have to like kind of mind trick yourself. And just like, I mean, I think it's a simple exercise of like, okay, if I start panicking, I'm going to utilize energy that I need to like, because I'm starving, and just like do whatever you can. Like, I think on that day, I also listened to like, I think it was Lady Gaga Applause, like 30 times. And I just was like, yeah, applause, applause, and I just like got going. So it's like, just literally in the moment, think of anything you can do, and then like something's going to blow on your pack or, I lost my soft last or something in one race or like your gator is going to blow, like, and there's little tricks like bring a little bit of duct tape, like just have like whatever you could think of that might help you out a little bit. And from there, you just have to get creative. Like it's a weird feeling. Like we live very luxurious lifestyles. Like I can just Amazon something, but you've got whatever is on your back to get you to survive and then utilize people around you because everyone's maybe done a few of these or maybe it's their first time. Like, I'd really encourage people that it's their 7th or 8th time to, really be there for the people that it's their first and help them, with those mind tricks and problem solving and just help them not to panic.
Definitely. And I think like what you're saying is like it is kind of intimidating at first because it's like the packing aspect and like training is so different than like a normal like ultra marathon or something. But at the same time, like going back to the community aspect, there's so many people that have done this and like they love to help people and see them do well at an event. So like sending like say you a message or someone that's done these races before messages, like people are more than willing to help because like it honestly is very fulfilling to help people do something hard and to see them push their limits. And like I like doing people ask me questions about stuff. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. Yeah, I definitely want to help you. I'm not getting paid or anything, but it's fun. So maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but
I love helping people out. It's fun. Like I've even helped a few people like train for these races like over the years and it's really like satisfying. I think another tip actually, like because I think grant to grant, I think maybe you get printouts or something of people sending messages. I forget. And if you're listening to this or you're not going to do the race, like find someone like and send a message because I can't tell you how awesome it is at like 8 p.m. or whatever time it is that they start rolling through. And it really helps. Like, even if it's a stranger, like it's just like, wow, someone's thinking of me and cheering for me, like at home. Like, I think it's awesome.
Definitely. And I think that's kind of like maybe I kind of wrap it up here is like, that you're out there doing something hard. You're definitely kind of isolated, but you're also with a good group of people. But getting a message and have from people that you or someone that you care about, and then thinking about that end goal, like, hey, I'm out here doing something hard, and it's inspiring me for X and X reason. Maybe it's like whatever reason, like your family, your kids, or just to push yourself over a limit that you maybe previously thought you couldn't do. Like keeping that end goal in mind and envisioning that, and then using these motivational like messages along the way to like reach that goal and taking it step by step and not getting overwhelmed with the distance.
Yeah. And I think on that too, not that I'm trying to give spouses or anything ideas here, but one thing that was really, really special that my now husband, but boyfriend at the time did for me is he actually like he slipped it in my pack. And I found it a bag check, but it was like a little envelope and each day it said like, it was taped up and it was like day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4. And I got to like open them and there was like a quote or it was like something inspirational or like a funny note. And so I think that would be my nod to like the spouses or whatever is like slip that little envelope in their bag. And those are grams that are worth taking because they literally will help them through like the hardest moments like in that race to like get to the finish line.
Yeah, no, that's a very awesome, or a really cool thing for him to do. Like just like those little like
Yeah, it was cool.
someone's thinking about you and you have those memories of home and stuff. And yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing how it'll get you through.
Yeah, the power of the mind's pretty incredible. I think like there's no real way to like have like quote unquote optimal training for a race of this distance with so many variables, but like having your mental like fortitude there and like having your end goal in mind with like these thoughts and just I guess ideas of like loved ones in your life can like really make or break a race like this.
Yeah, I would agree with that. It is, what did I say? It's like 90% mental and 10% running, I think, in stage racing. And it's a really cool opportunity. The whole stage racing world to challenge yourself in mind, body, and spirit. I think no matter who does it, they walk out the other side of these like a different person. Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. And just thinking of that with the 90% mental, 10% physical, that doesn't mean don't train because you definitely need to have your training time.
Train. All those training tips we were talking about, do those.
Yeah, definitely do all that too.
At your desk.
Cool. Well, thanks, Jackson. I really appreciate the time. It was fun to catch up. It's been a long time since you're out there. We're out there together, but it was fun to catch up.
Yeah, my pleasure. Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And we'll talk soon.